amendment to the Oakland Unified School District lease of Santa Fe School. Superintendent?
Yes, we're asking the board consider approval of this amendment to the Santa Fe lease so that we can ensure that our Emery Secondary School students have housing throughout the time period of the construction of the San Pablo site.
Any questions, comments from board members?
I guess the only comment is that we're not committing ourselves to the full year of payment if we do not occupy the building for the full year, correct?
That's correct. We had received the draft copy of the First Amendment, and we sent it back to Oakland with a change.
Okay.
And you'll find that change on page 1, under the agreement, under number 2, rent. The last sentence reads, if the lease terminates before December 31st, 2015, the rent will be prorated as mutually agreed upon by both parties.
Great.
And in our meetings with Oakland, we both agreed to prorating the rent should we leave early.
Okay, great, thank you.
So it's only an agreement for half a year to start with, and then we can take it shorter if we want, right?
That's correct. If the facilities are ready to move in sooner, we will be doing that.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments? Superintendent?
Just a quick question, Mr. Bonet. I'm sorry I didn't get to ask you this before the meeting. Do you have a sense of if we were to have it prorated in a mutually agreed upon way by both parties, would we probably just be dividing the amount by the number of calendar days?
Right. Or yes. Oh, actually, the month, because we talked about possibly moving in during the Thanksgiving break.
Okay.
Should the facility be ready that soon?
Okay.
And Oakland did express interest in coming in early too, so it could be the days. So if we both mutually agree upon the days, we would do that.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
Does it make sense to spell out the proration at this point in time?
That was what was crossing my mind. I apologize for not getting a chance to talk to Mr. Bonet about it, but that was the thought I was having.
Has the Mr. Bonet, has the Oakland seen this already? And
They approved.
yeah, they approved it, or are they just waiting to get it from us?
No, we sent this back to them, and they added the proration statement in.
I see. Well, do we have, it says as mutually agreed upon by both parties. That could mean as mutually agreed upon at such date in the future, we'll talk about it, or it could mean as we already discussed. Does it mean as we already discussed, or?
We did discuss this when we sat down with Oakland. Dave Gallagher and I, in our meeting with the assistant superintendent and Mr. Kadashi, who runs the facilities program for Oakland. And they did express coming in earlier if we were out in between the end of November and the 10th of December, let's say. So we had discussed this earlier, and we agreed upon the proration terminology at that time. We received the First Amendment, did not include that in there. I made a phone call to Mr. Kadashi, spoke to his secretary. She confirmed that, and this is the agreement that we got from Oakland with the proration statement in there.
So it sounds like you didn't discuss exactly how it would be prorated.
No, that will be it'll be determined whether we stay in there till the end of December or not.
Yeah.
Because it's all going to be dependent on how soon the high school is available to us. We don't know if rain will affect the schedule, if other outside
sure,
sources
but-
affect the schedule, so.
I mean, so I guess I would,
And we don't know what may affect their schedule.
So I'm sure it'd be like, what, 1/12 of the total amount?
Actually,
Is
if
it-
it's a month, it'd be 1/6.
Okay.
yeah, so, I mean, is it, if we're in for a partial month, are we paying for the whole month, or is it really a day-to-day?
That will be decided once we determine what day we move in and what day Oakland would like Santa Fe back. They've got several projects going on in their own district, and they're looking at moving a elementary school or a special ed center into Santa Fe. So it's all dependent on their schedule also. They're looking to move in as we're moving out.
May I ask a question? Mr. Bonet, would you have a recommendation for the board if the board felt that it would be more appropriate, would help with the clarity if the board wanted to have the language altered to spell it out before approving it, would you recommend that it would your recommendation be that to add some language that we would, the rent, around prorating the rent on a daily basis from the time period of July 1 to December 31st, just so we have it clear up front and don't have to negotiate that, possibly, or would you recommend something different?
I would recommend approving the item as presented. We have a really good working relationship with Oakland. We've asked for certain things, and they've been very amenable at providing service to Emery with regard to that site, whether it's maintenance items or other items that our district isn't responsible for. They're very responsive to our phone calls, and we have a very good relationship with Oakland.
So I guess I would be inclined to approve the item as is with the authority for you to insert the language, if they're amenable at this time, that something along the lines that the superintendent's recommending. It's just my experience in negotiating contracts, it's better to be clear about, well, how do you calculate this at the beginning before you ever get there than it is once you get there, because once we get there, there will be ways to prorate it that might work better for us. There will be ways that might work better for them. And so if we've kind of agreed up front, that's a fair way to do it, then it's better to do it now.
So let me ask this.
If they're not amenable to it, then, I'm comfortable, I guess, going with the language as it currently stands.
So when does Oakland board approve this contract? Do we know? When does this go before Oakland?
September, as soon as we can get it to them. It'd be on
So
the next
September.
board meeting.
It'd be on Oakland's next board
Yeah.
meeting in September, or late October, or
No.
September? So I guess, it's up to the pleasure of the board or the superintendent. Would we like for this to go back and spell some of these things out, prorated, or are we happy with, just doing what we're doing now and take the motion that Member Adfeld?
So just for clarity, the motion on the floor by Member Alfeld is that approving this as is, but giving, could you restate it?
Giving you and Mr. Bonet the authority to insert more specific language that articulates a daily pro rata
Yeah.
if Oakland's amenable to it.
Okay.
So you don't have to come back to us.
Yeah.
That you already have the authority to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the level of money we're talking about, I think any ambiguity in the contract, even if it's based on relationships, people change over time, and we could have different people on Oakland's end, different people on our end, trying to negotiate this. So I think it's really critical we spell out as much as we can before we approve it. I'm not as comfortable as Member Affelt with giving you the leeway to do it. I think if we want the change, we make the change, particularly given we have time before it goes to Oakland Unified. I think it's important that we have it spelled out. I don't want any ambiguity.
So why don't we do that then? Why don't we take
Would that be a different motion then?
Yeah, it would
Bob?
be.
Yeah, I didn't
It would-
actually make a
Oh,
motion.
or you're not, okay.
Oh, okay.
I
Amended
proposed
suggestion.
an approach,
Right.
which could be made in a motion, which I haven't formally made.
Okay.
So
I
sounds
would
like
just,
we're shaping a different motion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable seeing that it won't be getting back to Oakland until September. If we have a good relationship with Oakland, we could, talk with them, see what the proration will be on their end, our end, bring it back to us on the 28th, and then we can approve it. Is that doable?
we can do that. We were feeling lucky that we had the extension at all because they were
I mean,
a little
Oakland-
standoffish.
Yeah, they are. They want that
Initially with regard to allowing us to stay because, like I said, they have several facility projects going on.
No, he's right.
And we kept pressuring
Yeah,
them to amend the agreement.
yeah.
And it was kind of late in the game with regard to when the high school was going to be
Mhm,
built and
mhm,
pushing that
mhm,
schedule
mhm.
early and making all of the timelines
Mhm,
fit together.
Yeah, and
So the district did some due diligence with regard to getting Oakland to
yeah, and I
to
know
get this in the first place, because like I said, they have projects going on all over that district, and they were wanting to move into Santa Fe, I believe, considerably earlier.
So, is the thought process or is the concern that they're gonna back out if we ask for a more detailed understanding of how the proration's gonna work?
No,
Or
we'll
jeopardize our
approach that with
relationship?
them. What I'm saying is to go ahead and approve the agreement as is, with giving authorization to the superintendent and NRI to make that attempt at the change of the proration on a daily basis, but we're kind of held over a
Okay.
barrel at this
Can I-
point.
Can I then slightly change what you said? Approve as is with the mandate that it gets spelled out, but giving either of you the authority to do so. Does that work?
Yeah, about the same. And then I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Okay.
just get back to the board what those amendments or changes are. Because Mr. Bonet is right. I do know Oakland wants that facility to move in another school, and they want it now.
Sure, absolutely, and I think it's a good idea. In case it happens to be December 2nd, I hope it's not, but if it's December 2nd, and if things change for Oakland's timeline and they say, well, you owe us another month, and we'll prorate it by the month, it'd be nice to have it spelled out maybe. So.
No, right, right.
Yeah.
It's spelled out, but
Okay.
they want that. So, did you put out a motion, Member Ash?
Remember Ash has the motion.
I'd like to hear Christian's thoughts before I do so. If there
Oh, I
were
just
any.
think,
Yeah.
there's always thoughts, and they're not always good
Right.
ones.
Right.
Yeah, I always get concerned when I say we're sort of over a barrel. It sort of implies that we didn't do this soon enough, or that it was not, and or that we're having to put these edits out now. I would think that having a very clear contract is something we would have gone in with, and not, relied on that. So I just, those are my thoughts, and I'm hesitant to sort of say, oh, well, because we have to do this, we'll try to work it out, but if it doesn't happen, then go with this this ambiguous contract. So that gives me pause, but,
You're fine with the motion?
yeah, I'm fine with the motion.
I second.
Okay.
And then I would just ask that staff would send something out to the board once those changes are made.
Sure.
Okay.
Should we take a formal vote?
Well, you gotta do it. Okay.
Member Ash,
Yes.
Member Dwin,
Yes.
Member Pats,
Yes.
Vice President Effel.
Yes. All right. Oh, was there any public comment on that? Before we-
You always.
Okay, sorry. Can I do